right, I am back with a Palworld video, which is not something I thought I would ever be saying again. The game came out, it was this crazy viral phenomenon. It was, at its time, like the second highest most played game on Steam ever. It was all the talk of the town for like a week or two, and then it didn't go away. It's still maintained a solid player base, but it's not exactly some insane, viral thing like it was originally. But it is back in the news because after all this time, Nintendo has decided to sue Pocket Pair, the developer of Palworld. That was announced late yesterday, and then overnight, Pocket Pair responded. When this game first came out, there are obviously all these comparisons to Pokemon. It's Pokemon with guns, like, oh, look at these similar character designs. You catch Pokemon with balls or pals with balls. And everyone was like, haha, is Nintendo going to sue? But like, what was really the case there? Like, you don't own the concept of catching monsters with balls and training and battling them, or you can compare the artwork maybe of these, and like maybe those designs were too close or something. But like, people ask Nintendo about this and they're like, oh, we investigate all, we protect our IP, blah blah blah. But like, it was essentially no comment, and like nothing came of it. Now this is 8 months later, and Nintendo has said that they are suing because Pocket Pair has infringed on their patents to some degree, that in a way they believe is severe. They talk about protecting their IP. This morning, Pocket Pair responded and essentially said, we have no idea what patents they're talking about, but now we have to devote a bunch of resources and time to fight this lawsuit when they are a small independent company that, yes, made a lot of money off of Palworld initially, but it is a significant investment for a company like that to have to go to war with Nintendo. And it's Nintendo. They are very litigious. They would probably not be doing this if they did not think they could win. If they win, I do not see how Palworld does not essentially get nuked unless they have to like retool some fundamental aspect of the game. So what's going on here? No one really knows what patents Nintendo is claiming here that Palworld violates. However, the world of patents is crazy and it sucks ass. You can patent a lot of things, including specific game mechanics, and as this is unfolded, a lot of people have been digging into like what patents Nintendo has and has applied for. I've seen at least 3 that have kept coming up where the first one is from 2021. I think Steven Totilo found this, where it's essentially the concept of catching monsters in a field with a ball. That is like the long and short of what the patent is. Like, there's like detail about aiming and focusing and whatever, but that is kind of the fundamental nature of it. There was a later one that like zooms more in on like the ball concept specifically, where trapping monsters in balls to catch them and whatever is Nintendo's thing. That I think was filed later, but the idea here is that this really drills down on the whole PAL sphere thing, where PAL spheres are too close to Pokeballs, and when you combine the ball with the catching with the monster, that is somehow something Nintendo has a patent on. And then the other one I saw was something about like the way damage resistance works. I thought it might be something having to do with like elemental type matching in terms of like how damage is calculated. That one was a little unclear, and most of it was in Japanese. But again, there's all these like little bits and pieces coming up that are like pieces of Pokemon or pieces of that could be in Palworld, but it's like whatever this comes out to be is probably going to be pretty ridiculous that Nintendo is claiming. When you're claiming a patent, this essentially means they're not going down the road of like, oh, this PAL looks way too similar to this PAL. And like, I mean, there are a lot of examples where you could take, some different Pokemon and like, see bits and pieces of them on the PALs. But like the fact that they're doing like a patent thing now implies maybe they went down that road and did not find enough where they would actually have a case there. But the patent thing, depending on what it is, depending on how enforceable it is, that appears to be something they think they can enforce. Obviously, like, Palworld is not fundamentally like that similar to Pokemon. Like, yes, you can catch and raise monsters. It is also a survival game about base building and management, working your pals to build your base and protect you against NPC waves of enemies. You can, it's like a multiplayer map. You can have other friends with other bases there. It's a lot more expansive, and you're a character where you can wield your own guns and stuff and run around like it's an open world shooter. Like there are many things that differentiate Palworld from a typical Pokemon game, even though if at its core you're catching 150 monsters with balls. But that might be all that's needed to have Nintendo be like, you infringed, you owe us this much money, and if you can't pay it or change things enough, like your game is dead. Sorry. This is shitty. Like, I know Nintendo has a warm place in a lot of people's hearts, but when it comes to stuff like this, like, Nintendo has done this many times in ways that also do not feel good, but this would probably be one of the highest profile examples. This isn't like shutting down a non-official Smash Brothers tournament or something. This is potentially nuking what is, one of the biggest games of the last year, one of the biggest games on Steam ever in terms of how many players it got concurrently. The appearance here is that this feels very like bullying. Like Nintendo's this giant company in Pocket Pair. Again, despite its sales, it's a very small company. And unless they have someone like, their former development release partner, Microsoft, backing them on this, it's going to be very damaging for them, even if they don't lose. Like, again, it's still a ton of resources, and they could be tied up in court for a very long time on this. This would also hamper development on, future things in the game. Like, if they don't even know what they're infringing, like, how do you keep developing the game if it's something you might have to take out of the game later? I don't know when or if the specific patents will be made public. I don't know enough about how cases like this work to say that, but it seems just very mean-spirited for Nintendo, and it feels like it's reinforcing, kind of this idea of patent trolling where so many, patents and things have this isn't like the first time there's been a shitty patent that does something ridiculous. Like, I think Happy Birthday is patented or something where you can't sing that at restaurants because someone owns the patent or copyright on it or whatever. I think there's this old thing about, was it Konami? Someone owns the concept of like playing mini games during a loading screen, where only one company can do that now, and no one can ever do that again. There's a lot of things like this, but if we're talking about like catching a monster in a ball, which was something that allegedly was filed within the past year, the past 3 years, like that Nintendo's doing to try to protect Pokemon, that sucks. Again, we don't know for sure if that's it, but it just feels like Nintendo is going after a competitor, and everyone, when Palworld came out, was like, oh, well, finally someone's innovating on the Pokemon concept. Like, Palworld was never going to be a like true competitor for Pokemon. Like it just wasn't. You can't scale like that. Pokemon is the biggest entertainment franchise of all time, essentially. But obviously the sentiment around it has been declining over time, and people wanted to innovate more, and it's just really stuck in the past. So maybe Nintendo just did not like these comparisons, or they think that if Palworld can get away with a, quote, clone of Pokemon, who's to say the next person couldn't, or the next person with a much larger budget couldn't, and then, so on and so forth, and Nintendo's like, sorry, you can't catch monsters with balls, that's our thing, or whatever it ends up being. So I don't think there's any way to spin this as not sucking. Like, unless they prove, like, Palworld stole code from them, or Palworld literally ripped assets, or something like that, like actual thievery, if this is just some patent troll thing based on some garbage patent that Nintendo bought with 50,000 other patents, like, that sucks. And Palworld, like it or not, and Pocket Pair deserve better than that, and at least initially this seems very bad on Nintendo's part, and I don't like seeing it. So we'll keep track of where this is going. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm curious what everyone makes of this, but yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.